Okay, so today we are moving on to quadratic functions. So it's said to be in standard form when it is written like a times x minus h squared plus k, where a isn't 0, because then it wouldn't be quadratic, and hk is my vertex. So if my a value is positive, it opens upward, and if my a value is negative, it opens downward. My a value is the number outside the parentheses. So you're going to teach us? You said you know how to do this. Okay, so number 1 wants me to describe the graph and then identify the vertex. So the way I do this is I want to complete the square on the left side only. No, right side only. Right side's where the numbers are. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to factor out my a value from the two terms with x. So I'm going to take 2 out of those first two terms, and I'm left with x squared plus 4x. And then I still have that 7 outside. And the whole point of me completing the square is so I can get it to ultimately look something like this. So I can find my vertex by just looking at the function without actually graphing it. So that's the whole point of why we're doing this. Then what I want to do is I need to complete the square because I want to get a perfect square, so it'll be in this form. So I am looking for half of 4. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 2 squared inside the parentheses, and I'm also going to have it outside the parentheses, but I'm going to subtract it when I add it to the outside because I'm working on one side of the equation. And before, when we were completing the square, we were working with both sides. So right here, it gets added inside. Notice, because it's inside parentheses, it's actually being multiplied by this 2. So if I want to cancel out this 2, I need another negative 2 to cancel out this first 2. And then my 2 squared, because I want to keep my equation the same as what I was originally given. Because I have f of x and not 0. So if I had 0, it would be over here and be positive. Okay, so then I want to simplify. So 2 squared is, and negative 2 times 2 squared is this part in red. What does it equal? What is 2 squared times negative 2? myself and it's so ugly, I gotta fix it. Huh? Probably attendance. Hello? Too much room right here. I like no room in there. I know, I'm just saying it's in the wrong spot. And like this one's too close to the trash can. Okay, now the next thing I want to do is I want to factor the stuff inside the parentheses. So what multiplies to 4 and adds to 4? 2, and I get 2 2's, right? So I can rewrite it as x plus 2 squared. And then 7 minus 8? Negative 1. Okay. Then I can tell my vertex now. So what is it? Did you say 6? Not quite. Negative 2, negative 1. Okay, yeah. Okay, thank you. Do you remember when we were doing transformations with graphs? Yeah, we did that chapter 1. The number inside the parentheses tells you how much you're moving left or right opposite the sign. So just like that, opposite the sign is where I'm getting that 2, and left and right is x. And then the number outside the parentheses was up and down. So that's where I'm getting this negative 1. Okay. Another way to think about it is I could take the stuff inside the parentheses and set it equal to 0. And then that would give me a negative 2 when I move it over. And then if I had a y and I just ignored everything with an x, it would just be y equals negative 1. So that's why that one doesn't change. Yeah? So if I just took the stuff inside the parentheses and I set that equal to 0, and then I solved for x, it changes signs. Okay. Does this open up or down? Why? Wait, you guys are saying 2 different things, but Jace keeps agreeing with you. A is greater than 0. Okay, so A is the value I care about. That's the one outside the parentheses. So this 2 on the outside is what I decided on. So because this 2 is positive, it's opening upwards. Okay, so Jace, go sit back in your seat. Number 3 wants me to describe the graph and then identify any x-intercepts. I can either find my x-intercepts by factoring or graphing. So before I decide on how I want to find my x-intercepts, tell me if this opens up or down. Why? What's a negative? I see 2 negatives. The a value is negative. Okay, so do you want to solve this by factoring or graphing? Graphing. You were the first class all day to say graphing. Yes.
No. Can't you just pinpoint the point?
I just said you guys were the first ones. So then I will type this in the y equals. not that bad. Honestly, the first one was the hardest one on this one. Okay, so once I type this in, I want to graph it. And it looks like this. So remember, when I graph it on the calculator, I need to go ahead and find my actual zeros. Because remember, another word for x-intercept is zeros. So if I go second trace, then I want to choose choice 2 for 0. Your calculator that I mentioned to get at the beginning of class? Oh, I was like... So I want to be on the left side of my first crossing point. I press enter. I cross the x-axis. I press enter twice. And it gives me x equals 2. I went second trace. And then I went to choice 2 for 0, because that's another way of saying x-intercept. And then I want to be on the left side of my first crossing point. No. I press enter, and then I need to cross the x-axis. That's all that matters. And I press enter twice, and it gives me that 2. Okay, so then I want to do the same thing for the second one. I'm going to go second trace. Okay, but some of the other ones might not be so nice. Okay, so then I'm going to press, and I'm going to pass the vertex, press enter. Where did it? I forgot to go second trace, I think. Okay, so then I want to go 0. I press enter, and then I cross the x-axis, and I press enter twice. And it is 4. Questions there? You would factor it. So you would divide out all the negatives, and then look for what multiplies to positive 8 and adds to negative 6. Okay, so I'm going to give you guys... So last thing is when we're given an equation in general form, we can use x equals negative b over 2a, and then plug that in to find the y value to get the maximum or minimum value. Okay, I'll show it in a second. So typically this is used when our a values are really ugly and not whole numbers, like in number 5. So it's telling me the path of a baseball is given by this function, where f of x is the height of the baseball in feet, and x is the horizontal distance from the home plate in feet. What is the maximum height reached by the baseball? So I'm going to plug into this formula. I first need to figure out my a and b values. C is not important here. So my a is the negative 0.0032. And then b is 1. So then I want to plug into the formula. I have negative for the formula. My b value is 1. 2 is part of the formula. And then I'm plugging in negative 0.0032. Okay, so then I'm going to go ahead and type this in the calculator. When I type that negative at the beginning, I want to use the one that's on the bottom next to the negative. I mean next to the decimal, that is the negative. Then I want to divide, and then in parentheses 2. And I want to put the whole denominator in parentheses, because if I type it exactly like I wrote it on the paper, the calculator is really dumb, and it will do negative 1 divided by 2. Figure out that answer, and then multiply it by the 0.0032. I know. So you have to tell it exactly what it needs to do. Okay, so this is how I would want to type it in. Let me know when you guys have that answer. Yeah, I know I can push enter, but I want to make sure you can type it in right. Okay, so I heard someone got this answer. 156.25. Okay, so then what I want to do is I want to go ahead and plug this in for x. You have to hand it out for everyone if you grab it for yourself. Okay, so then I am going to plug in the 156.25. There's a trash can there. For all of the x's in my original equation,
Someone's out to get me. That trash can was not there.
that trash can is always there.
Manifested.
Oh my God.
You did get a girlfriend, alright?
Drugs.
Maybe kidnapping?
Let's not be rude, God.
Maybe you ran something fast enough and
I thought Jace was supporting me for a second.
I thought it was like positive, and then it wasn't. It was like,
it still is positive. So.
no, it's not.
That is a mental illness. Yeah.
What? Huh? Pineapple.
Oh?
Put that in the Thursday folder. The blue one on the wall.
What?
Oh.
Okay, does anyone have an answer?
Yes.
81.17.
Okay, so because this is a word problem, that number means something. What?
Oh, not that.
The max
Height.
height
In
Feet.
feet. Okay, so questions here.